Tonight, we will have the very latest updates on the Boston Marathon explosion. Here is what we know as of now. There are 3 confirmed dead, 176 injured. 25 to 30 people have reportedly lost one or both legs. Streets and shops continue to be closed, and security has been stepped up around the nation's major cities. The explosives used were contained in 6-liter pressure cookers and hidden in black duffel bags on the ground. One of the explosives contained metal shards and ball bearings, and another contained nails. While there are no clear suspects, a Saudi national here on student visa was being treated as a person of interest. The Washington Post is reporting that he's now being treated as a witness rather than a suspect. So basically, we don't know who did it yet. What we do know is whoever did it is a gutless coward. One of the 3 who died is a 29-year-old named Crystal Campbell, who was waiting at the finish line to cheer on a friend. The other confirmed death is an 8-year-old boy whose identity has been confirmed as Martin Richard. Martin was waiting at the finish line area to greet his dad, who was running in the race. It's absolutely tragic. But in the darkest of times, the actions of so many Americans in crisis situations always gives us hope. And Boston was no different. Many racers who had run a marathon continued to run over to nearby hospitals and the Red Cross to give blood. Within a few short hours, the Red Cross tweeted, "Due to the generosity of our donors, we don't need blood at this time." Immediately after the explosions, people rushed in to help. One man rushed to the scene to help those laying in a bloody, chaotic mess. He told the Boston Herald, "I gave my belt to stop the blood." Former NFL player Joe Andruzzi carried victims to safety. People who lived nearby offered their homes. And then there's the man in the cowboy hat. His name is Carlos Arredondo. He could be seen in several of the videos and photos doing whatever he could to help the injured. Carlos was there to honor and cheer on those who were running for soldiers who had died in Iraq and Afghanistan. His own son was killed while serving in Iraq. And that's not the only tragedy he's endured. His other son committed suicide. He was at the finish line handing out small American flags to many of the runners when the blast occurred. There are countless of stories that are similar to his, and that's what makes America great. And then there's the other side of America, the darker side, much more visible now thanks to social media. If you've been anywhere near social media in the last 24 hours, you've probably experienced 2 emotions, love and hate. People are sharing these amazing stories of heroism and hope that inspire us all, but mostly hate, because people on social media are agonizing. They're no different than people who have gulped down a case of Natty Light. They're hammered beyond belief, and the speech filter that normally blocks the stupid stuff suddenly vanishes. And every crappy thought that crosses their mind gets immediately broadcast to everyone in proximity. Within minutes after the attack broke, Alex Jones tweeted that this attack was a false flag. There are no details, none released when he tweeted that, but he knew something was up. Luke Russert, of all people, took the opportunity of the explosion to do a little name-dropping and reckless speculating as well. Cynthia McKinney used all 4 of her brain cells, they worked together, to come up with something super suspicious she noticed. A bomb squad drill! Ha ha! Yes! The connection is so clear. The Boston PD also ate lunch at Cheers yesterday. What were they celebrating? Ask Norm. Yeah, I know. Right on, Cynthia. You go, girl. I appreciate it. Just keep working with those 4 brain cells. New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof's heart was clearly broken up about the horrific scene. As our TVs were flooded with images of bloody bodies, body parts, horror, he blamed Republicans for blocking the appointment of an ATF director. That is some brilliant thinking. If we just had an ATF director, none of this would have ever happened. Why didn't I think of that? That's a great point. I guess that's why you work, Nicholas, for the New York Times, and I'm stuck here filling for Glenn Beck. And then there's, of course, Michael Moore, who took a break from doing whatever it is he does these days to tweet this. Case closed, Boston PD. No need to investigate. No way it could be Islamic Jihad or radical leftist. Occupy Cleveland suspects are currently on trial for trying to blow up a bridge in Ohio. Or just a random crazy person. No, Michael Moore looked at his calendar and he figured it all out. Twitter wasn't the only place for stupidity. MSNBC's Chris Matthews jumped right in to blame it on conservatives.
Let me ask you about domestic terrorism as a category. Normally, domestic terrorist people tend to be on the far right, although that's not a good category. Just extremists, just call them that.
Right, tend to be. Barney Frank took one look at the horrific scene, and the first thing that popped into his little tiny itty-bitty head was taxes.
In this terrible situation, let's be very grateful that we had a well-funded, functioning government. No tax cut would have helped us deal with this or will help us recover. This is very expensive.
Right. Thank God it didn't happen in Florida or Texas because there's no state income tax there. There wouldn't have been anyone to help. And David Axelrod, he knows exactly what the president is thinking about on this one.
You use those words, and it means something very specific in people's minds. And I'm sure what was going through the president's mind is, we really don't know who did this. It was tax day. Was it someone who was you just don't know.
It's interesting, considering the president went out of his way yesterday to mention that it was Patriots Day and that he would punish any groups responsible for this. How sad that in the midst of tragedy, when we can all look at our televisions and mourn together and work together to do what we can to help, instead of seeing the great side of Americans, the side that does the miraculous, that makes our hearts soar with good deeds and people going above and beyond, we instead have to sit around and debate the mindless thoughts of those stuck in political mode and trying to take advantage of a crisis with some stupid political point. If that's you, shut up. Just shut up. There will be a time and a place for all of that nonsense, but today isn't it.